Hi, my name is Jesse Gray,
I'm Emily.
and I am in Mr. Peltier's English class, and for our extra credit, we are reviewing Earthlings.
Narrated by Joaquin Phoenix.
There you go, full major. And the movie Earthlings covers 5 main parts. It talks about how animals serve us as pets, as food, clothing, entertainment, and as scientific research. The first part of the documentary shows how dogs and kittens are raised in mills where they're constantly mistreated and herded into small cages. The dogs and cats, they develop psychological damage, and there are never any veterinary care on staff, and it's usually low budget. And yeah.
It's usually run like in the backyard of someone's house.
Okay. The second part of the documentary is about food and how animals serve us as their diet. It shows many incidences of cows, pigs, and chickens being mistreated. Many cows are bolted with stun guns, apparently because it causes less pain, and then their throat is slit. It's very disgusting. There's diseases, a lot of bacteria in the factory farms itself, and
they also collect the cow's blood, right? Okay. Hang the cow upside down, and they cut its throat, and they bleed the cow out and collect all the blood. And, the cows are still suffering while they're hanging upside down, bleeding out, and it's really disgusting.
It's pretty sad to watch the animals
suffer,
kick and yell for their life as they're being slit open by a blunt knife. Food is probably one of the worst things that happens to animals because they're instantly killed and they're raised from birth until their death. They're just destined to be killed. They have no freedom.
And their lives are really short too. They don't get to live out their life expectancy for life expectancy for any animal living in a factory farm is much shorter than if they were in the natural world.
Like a cow can usually live till she's 15, but in dairy facilities they usually die at 4 and are shipped off to fast food restaurants. The next part of the documentary has to do with clothing, and it's very bizarre and kind of shocking how a human can capture animals in the wild, stick them in 2-foot by 2-foot cages, and
not even 2 foot. Those cages were so small.
As a matter of fact, a lot of the foxes and raccoons, they develop psychological problems because they're so confined and they're used to being out in the wild and running free. But in the video you could see them pacing back and forth in between their cells, and it just shows the type of trauma that those animals go through just so someone can have a nice scarf.
They also suffer horrible weather conditions because the cages aren't protected by anything, like, freezing to death, things like that.
Another big part that a lot of people underestimate because it's just so intertwined with our society is leather. Not a lot of people know where leather comes from. They know, like, hey, leather jacket looks good, I should wear it, or hey, there's a wallet, it's made out of leather, it's sturdy, I should buy it. As a matter of fact, I'm guilty myself of having a leather wallet, but I bought it before I took your class and before I became educated about the atrocities that happen to cows with clothing. And with the leather, it's sad because in the video, people will go to Indian families, and people in India, they worship cows. It's part of the Hindu religion that they practice. One of their gods takes persona as a cow, so they don't eat, they don't drink, they don't do anything to cows. They worship them. And people will go to little farms in India and buy cows from families and tell the family, hey, your cow's going to be fine, it's going to live a long life on our prairie. When in reality, they stuff all those cows into a truck, slaughter them, beat them, rub cayenne pepper in their eyes, break their tails, all to get leather goods to sell. The next section that the documentary covered was how animals entertain us. There's many ways an animal can entertain us. Obviously circuses, you see the elephants standing on a tiny little platform, or in zoos where they're in full view of tourists and in cages with glass walls. And in circuses, it's very, very blatant. I mean, it's well hidden by the circus, the show that the animals are well taken care of, but in the documentary it showed how elephants especially are mistreated because caretakers will take a long rod with a hook on the end and jab it into the elephant's leg to make it do tricks, to make it, stand on that little platform for everybody.
They basically beat the animals to teach them tricks.
Yeah. Another shocking point in the video is how the elephant got tired of it in one of the circus. I can't remember where it happened.
Probably happened multiple times.
Yeah. And the elephant decided, it was going to break free, started rampaging, killed a few people, and eventually got shot down by cops, which is obviously, what else are the cops going to do? I mean, it's sad, but they should have never been used for entertainment in the first place, and if they would have just been happy.
They had been treated correctly and fairly in the way they're supposed to be treated. I mean, what else are you going to expect from an animal that you beat? It's going to bite you.
The last section of the film had to do with animals and how they're used in scientific research. Scientific research on animals has pretty much been part of the whole scientific era of the last, couple of centuries. And one of the most famous and recent examples of animal testing is the Apollo missions and sending monkeys into space, and the Russians sending a dog into space to see if living beings would be able to survive in preparation of sending a human. There's also animal testing, like not so gruesome and inhumane, like Pavlov's dogs, how he just studied stimuli behavior. It's highly controversial because you have to draw a boundary between human welfare and animal welfare, but there does need to be reform with scientific testing. There needs to be more research to be able to create computer simulations, to create things where we no longer need animals to test a drug or to test a car impact.
I mean, it's really obviously cruel and disturbing for the animals and unfair. It just, everything that the video that Earthlings showed was really horrible and unfair to the animals.
In conclusion, the Earthlings video was very informative. It was not trying to persuade anybody. That's what I liked about it. It wasn't like a lot of vegetarian videos or vegan videos where they try to persuade you into becoming a certain way. Instead, it was more informative, and it just showed you
the truth
without a bias. It showed you what happens to animals in our society.
What is currently happening in this world.
So, thank you.